Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I hope that you guys enjoyed the taping of Some Old Black Man, written by James Anthony Tyler. And I'm so happy to see all of you guys in the chat. So feel free to chat up while we're having this wonderful talk back. I want to thank the Mahei Performing Arts Center for co-presenting with us. And of course, all of our Berkshire Playwrights Lab constituents and everyone that follows us on all our social media. Thank you, thank you, thank you for checking in with us. Without further ado, we have a wonderful talk back with that's going to be, it's going to be wonderful today. And we have the talented Jamil Jude, which he is going to act as your host for this evening. And just a couple things before I bring him on. If you guys could please like this video. And if you're looking at us on YouTube, could you please subscribe to our channel? This is just one beautiful play that you guys have seen. We've done lots of plays for like the last 10 something years. And so it's very important that you guys subscribe to us on our YouTube page. So as soon as we put up anything new, you are the first to know. Also, you will see that periodically this is a fundraiser. So let's everyone have fun raising money for our Berkshire Playwrights Lab, where we all, we're on the cutting edge of diverse plays that we're trying to get out there into the public, and that takes money. So please, 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 contribute. I will have the donate button will be going in and out the chat. But remember, please you can share this video with anybody and subscribe to us on YouTube. So without further ado, this is Mr. Jamil Jude.
Thank you so very much. Hey, everyone. So thank you for checking out this presentation of Some Old Black Man by James Anthony Tyler, and welcome to the Talkback. I'm really excited. We're going to have a couple of the people who put the work in and showed their amazing artistry in that production that you just had a chance to see. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce our players here, my guests on this conversation. First, let's welcome the playwright, Mr. James Anthony Tyler.
Hey, what's up, Jamil?
James, it's so good to see you, brother. Before we bring everybody else on, man, I just want an opportunity just to sit and talk to you for a second. And I just want to know, hey, where'd you come up with the idea for the show? And talk to us a little bit about where you are with it now. Like, at what stage are we seeing the play?
Yeah, good question. You know what? I came up with this play. I was forced to come up with something when I was in graduate school at NYU. And so it started off as a 10-minute play where I was literally just simply thinking about my parents' generation of coming of age as Black people in America and my grandparents' generation, the similarities and the differences. And I had like 2 days to write something, or not even 2 days, I had a day because I had to bring it back the next day. And I wrote the first scene of Some Old Black Man, first 10 minutes, and it just had to do with the yogurt. Son trying to get dad to eat the yogurt. And then from there, my classmates and my professor loved it so much that I started working on a full-length version. Yeah. And the second part was, where am I, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we put in so much work. We've had a production in Great Barrington, our first fully staged production. And then we did a production in New York, and now this. So I am hoping, I'm hoping my work is done, but we hope to restage it in person once we get on the other side of this pandemic. I know Joe and the great folks at BPL want to bring it back to New York. So I don't finish working officially until, the play is published, but I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, man. Well, I have been a big fan of yours, and anytime I get a chance to talk to you about your work, I'm really excited. But to know the history about this one, for those of you all out there, you're getting that behind the scenes to know that this thing started as a small little 10-minute where our amazing writer was pressed for time, and it has grown into this beautifully well performed, so nuanced production. I see so many people commenting at the end of the show saying that they were impressed with the piece of work and really loved the performances. So just congratulations again, James, on this amazing piece. The second person I'd like to bring out to come as one of my guests today is the director and producer, Mr. Joe Cacaci.
Hey, Jamil.
Hey, Joe, what's going on?
How you doing? Nice. Thanks for doing this for us. We didn't mention that you are the artistic director of True Colors Theater in Atlanta, Georgia. So you're taking time out from that to help us today.
Don't worry about that. I was definitely going to mention it. Don't you worry. Well, Joe, from one producer to another, let's just start there. Let's start where you know, as producers, we go out and like plays either find us or we go out and we find them. But regardless, we get to put our name on it at the end of the day. And we get to hail ourselves as this person who has uncovered or found this work. I'd love to know just like, what was the relationship with James? How did you all come to find one another, and how did this work come to find a home at BPL?
It was an interesting situation. James referred to his graduate school at NYU. In one of the readings of this play, a guy named Bob Jaffe, who was at the time our co-artistic director, was actually in it, right, James? He played one of the roles for the reading at the table.
He did.
And he sent me the play, and he said, "You got to read this tonight." So I did, because he didn't usually say stuff like that. And I read it tonight, and the next day I sent it to the late, great Roger Robinson, actor, and I said, "You got to read this tonight." And he did. So. And anyway, we decided to stage a reading at the Mahawi Performing Arts Center, which is where we've done most of our stuff for the last 13 years. So, which is what's really kind of touching about the fact that there are partners in presenting this tonight, because it's kind of coming full circle. So we did the reading, and the response from the audience, and Jamil, I know you've done a million of these. There's a talkback after the play like this. All 350, 400 people stayed, which never happens. And so many people said to us, "You guys ought to produce this play." So it took us a while to raise the money, but 2 years later, with the help of our board of directors and Michael Wolkowitz and Stacy Weber, Fred Harris, and Peg and Mike Andrew, we raised the money to do it at St. James Place, which is down the block from the Mahawi. And then that production moved into 59 East 59th. Took off, and then Wendell got the great idea to present it to University Musical Society in Ann Arbor during a pandemic, and we went, okay, why not? And that's where we are. Like James said, we want to bring it back live in New York or London or Atlanta.
I like it. So, you know, like anything, man, these stories have wonderful ways in which they unfold. There's a little bit of serendipity. There's that ingenuity that it takes to really put the pieces in place to make it shine. But also, you had the opportunity, Joe, to be on the inside of it and help shape and bring it to life as a director. I'd love to hear from you on what did you learn about the play as a director that you, if you only stayed as producer, may not have experienced so intimately?
Wow. That's a good question.
Hey guys, if you want more of this, you can come over to True Colors.
We will. Well, you know, what we do at BPL in those 4-day workshops, that one that we did at the Mahawi, is we really just sit around and sort of just rip the play apart and talk about it for like a day and a half before we even go near the stage, maybe 2 days, right, James? And then we start moving the actors around, which in this case is not that hard because it's 2 guys in real time, which I just want to say, I've said it before. I can't remember a play, I know there are some, that's told in real time, but certainly one that's so provocative and compelling, and you don't even realize you're basically watching a long scene, and so many things happen in this. It's quite an accomplishment structurally and every other way. So that's what I was learning was, you know, how do we keep this thing taught for that 90 minutes straight? And, you know, I was blessed with James's script, which changed a little bit in those early days. And I think we changed it even during the production at St. James and between St. James and New York. I remember you and I, James, meeting at some sandwich shop in Brooklyn and talking about some things. And then we played around with it a little bit with Wendell and Roger. And then it pretty much got locked. And I don't think we've changed anything since then. But it's pretty tight. So I would say that just being there, Jamil, for every moment of everything that happened, you really learn a play. You learn how it breathes. And in a way that, you know, coming in and out as a producer or artistic director, you don't get to do. So it was a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we all were privileged to have a chance to watch this piece. So the pandemic, like everywhere, you know, I feel like we have to continue to say it because we can't normalize the fact that we have been separated from one another from the live communal experience of live theater for more than 13 months now. So it that alone, the loss of life is enough that we need to make sure that we say that this is not normal. But despite that circumstance, you all were able to bring this piece to so many people thanks to the partnership at the University of Michigan. I'd love to know. So Wendell, you said Joe helped put that together, but can we talk about just how weird that is? One, to make art in the middle of a pandemic, but how do you find the camera angles and work with this other medium in presenting a theatrical performance? Anybody? That's for James or Joe. Maybe why don't we start with you, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, you know what? Can I just add, Joe, before you start? I mean, for us, when we arrived at University, you know, Musical Society, we thought that we would at least all be in the same room together rehearsing. And we did have one day, right, Joe? That first
one day.
And then I think well, most people know the story, but if you don't know it, I know Joe's been very open. You know, he tested positive, and we had to, for coronavirus, and we had to rethink everything and be in our separate rooms again, you know, not together, and figuring out a way to bring the play to life. And the fact that Joe, through all of that, was still, you know, willing to go on this journey, and the actors and our stage manager, Tiffany, it was just phenomenal and inspiring. So hats off to you, Joe.
Yeah. Well, no, it was, I have to say, in all these years, nothing comes close. Every time James and I would have an experience on the play, like, you know, the great Roger Robinson getting ill in the production in New York and going in and out of the hospital and going on stage with, you know, not in his best, but being brilliant on stage. Once we lived through that, we thought, well, okay, we've seen everything. Well, not quite. So when we got out there, and yeah, it was one day, James and I moved into this giant house that UMS got us. We all had our own rooms, big common areas, and we were going to rehearse in the basement, big giant basement. So James and I were the first two there. I guess Charlie was there too, but he went to bed early. We stayed up, and I guess we can say this. We drank bourbon till 3 a.m. to celebrate the fact that we were together in person for the first time in a while. So come Tuesday morning, I thought, why do I still feel hungover from Saturday night? And then we realized that that's not what it was. So I went to a hotel. James and Wendell were in their rooms. Tiffany was in her room. And everybody was on a screen like this for 2 weeks until they tested negative 14 days in a row and could convene in the basement. I still couldn't come back. So I was still in my little hotel room, then eventually a nicer house when I was not quarantined. But I was looking through 2 little camera lenses remotely while they were doing it. And the only thing that saved us is that James and I had done the play together a bunch of times. Wendell and James and I had done it together, and Charlie had done 2 readings of it. So there was a sort of shorthand, and it's a 2-hander. So the 2 guys could really just look at each other on screen and still communicate. I don't think it could have happened with any other situation. And UMS really managed that thing beautifully. I always felt taken care of, and they spared no expense to make sure that we got what we needed. It was quite remarkable. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but it was quite remarkable.
Yeah, wow, what a remarkable way to make it. So now let's talk about, that's the process. Now let's talk about the actual art making. What does it mean to put a camera into the middle of a play while maintaining the integrity of the live art form? James, why don't you speak to what that was like, wanting to make sure that the nuances of play translated through that camera lens?
Yeah, I mean, Joe and I had a bunch of conversations on this topic before arriving in Ann Arbor, because it was just so important to us that this is a play. We were not trying to make a television show or a movie. We really wanted the intimacy of theater. And we thought when we first had conversations with UMS about going to Ann Arbor, the hope was that we would have a small audience and the cameras. But unfortunately, because of there was a spike in numbers, we quickly had to have that ixnayed. And so the conversations had to continue with Joe and I about how do we make this feel like a live theatrical experience and intimate, the intimacy of this story without the audience present, and also with, 3 cameras, now shooting our actors. And so, yeah, I think, so rehearsing it like a play, not saying we're going to chop it up or anything. We wanted to rehearse it like a play and made sure it moved in real time the same way it would on stage, if that makes any sense. Joe, you want to chime in, take over from me?
That's exactly right. That's exactly what we did. And I think, as you all saw, we tried to stay back on Wendell and Charlie whenever possible to give you that sense of seeing it in real time. And in the hands of 2 actors like that, you want to see their commingling as a piece, if you will. And if you notice, a lot of times I let the camera sort of fall off the set, so you saw the black background to continually remind you, oh yeah, we're on a set, we're not watching a television show. And then we went in tighter and in closer to shots and close-ups, just to give the guys to give you a sense of what the detail work that the guys were doing. And I like to think about it the way I might, and you might, Jamil, light a stage production, where suddenly the lights dim and it's more focused on one actor during a speech. So I try to think of the close-ups as that. And that was really, so we called it a hybrid early on because as Wendell pointed out, yes, we want to do that, but we want to remember people are going to be seeing it on a screen. So we didn't want to just lay the camera back and just let them go, which wouldn't have felt dynamic the way it does in a live theater.
Yeah, I love that. And Joe, I'm sure that your work behind the camera and your TV and film work helped pay off. Did you serve as your own DP, director of photography here, or did you man the cameras, or did you have a film director as well?
Well, we didn't. No, I was the director, but we had a cinematographer who ran the company that actually shot this, brought the cameras from Chicago, and they did a phenomenal job. And a lot of those shots, you could see in that pre-show that there was a jib arm, which is a small crane. So we had some equipment that really helped, and people who knew how to use it. 3 really talented cameras.
Yeah, that was really amazing.
I want to just add that they all had to, quarantine beforehand, and we all, even being in the space, we all had to stay distance from each other and keep our masks on. And the only people who could take off their masks were Wendell and Charlie, but only when they were on set and it was time to shoot. And then once we were there, we could not leave. There was one day where I just wanted to go and get a really good cup of coffee at a coffee shop right across the street. I was tempted to sneak off, and they were like, nope, don't sneak off. You can't bust the bubble.
Break the bubble, right. You can't break the bubble. Yeah. Wow,
yeah.
that is so such a powerful story in the time that you all did it, right? We had yet to really have all these COVID protocols in place. So just really smart work that you all did to create a game plan that now so many others are attempting to follow. I thought it was really amazing. Without giving too much of the sauce away, when you finally recorded it, did you try to record it and film it one time through, or did you break it up as if you were?
You know what? We ended up breaking it up a lot. We just because of the nature of the space we were in and trying to hold on to that fluidity. The original goal was to just go all the way through, but unfortunately, with the time constraints and the space and all of those things, we weren't able to. We did as much as possible, but not fully through.
Well, just a hat off to all of the creatives that went into that. The editing is flawless, and without having that insight that you only get here in this talkback, without having that insight, I would have never known that it wasn't akin to the the live musicals that we would see from time to time on TV over the last 10 plus years.
Yeah. And, even in rehearsal, there were cameras because Joe still wasn't able to join us. I mean, the tech rehearsal. The beginning of that was me and the stage manager moving around cameras so that Joe could direct the actors. So, I mean, there were a few barriers to jump over to make all of this work.
Hey man, well that just means that you all were trying very hard to bring to life such a really, really important play. What I'd like to do now is to bring in another guest who had, just a little bit of a part to play in this thing. I'd like to bring on Mr. Wendell Pierce.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Very good. I'm sorry I'm late. My apologies.
You know what? We wouldn't even have to do that. We were going, person by person, and we were just gonna bring you in. But again, I appreciate this is what you guys get here at BPL. You get that behind the scenes. You get honesty, not just on stage with the integrity in which the artist presented, but definitely from the integrity of the artist who helped bring it forth. Wendell, I'd love to just get your input on you had a chance you got the script. What made you say yes, and what has continued your belief in sustaining this project over the years?
Well, it's good writing. That's the first thing. A good writing, a good story, and something that challenges you as an artist. As an actor, I try to create the world so strong and detailed that it induces the behavior. It almost does the work for you. And this was detailed. It had a history. It had great relationships, and it had great circumstance and conflict. And so that was the key to make sure it was good writing. So it all goes back to James writing a very great script, a great play. And that was the thing that wanted me that made me want to do it, and that defines every choice that I make. Really good material.
James, what is it like, man, to have somebody commit not just their talent in that one time in a reading, but consistently in a live production and another live production and then a pause production and then come back and do a hybrid production? What does that mean to you to have someone, care so much about your work and stay dedicated to it?
And not just someone. This is the greatest actor of his generation. This is Wendell Pierce. This is not just someone, I mean, it's just...
Check is in the mail.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And I mean, he comes around and the bar is raised. And so I have to be on my A game as an artist and making sure that every moment is truthful and that there is an arc there. I mean, you just have to be on your A game. And I love it. I love it. I appreciate him and these artists, Wendell, Charlie, Joe. I mean, it's a wonderful experience, wonderful theatrical experience.
And historically, when you look at in the past and think about other generations of artists, writers and directors and actors, and you think, well, they didn't take the time to get together. I don't want to miss that opportunity. It would have been great to have seen Lorraine Hansberry work with, in another play with, Ossie Davis, and with with Douglas Turner Ward directing. That never happened. Or to see Diane Carroll do a play by Ron Gilmore or Mr. Bullard, and be directed by, or do an Alice Childress play. It never happened. And so I didn't want to pass up an opportunity to work with a great writer and a great director and a great theater and produce and create a new play.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. It is so, it's such a blessing. I find in my own artistic pursuits that you find those artistic collaborators that bring out your best, that you want to make sure that you show up for. And it really seems that you all have found that in the work. Joe, I want to spend just a little bit of time here and we'll get back to this piece specifically, but this is an opportunity for us to showcase BPL and the work that you all have been doing, and just continue to tell people this is not an anomaly. Yes, the forces that put this piece together are special, but BPL has a history of making these strong connections with artists and really great writers. Can you just speak to, again, what you all are up to with BPL?
Yeah, sure. This is year 14, I think, and we've been developing new plays. We would do between 4 and 7 plays every summer, as I said, mostly at the Mahawi. And we do these 4-day workshops, and I think it was always a great experience for the writer to really get a chance to see, serious actors and directors, bringing those pieces alive, and they would actually rewrite in those days. People would go back to one of the bed and breakfasts where we were putting people up, and they'd come back in the morning with new pages, and that's how the plays would develop. And of course, everybody was on book, but still. In fact, Wendell and I met in a restaurant on Castle Street because he came up to see a friend of his in a play that we did, 8 or 9, 10 years ago. So we've been doing this for a long time and want to continue to do it. And we want to do more full productions. That's the next level. And as Felicia said early on, that takes some money. So the artistic directorship, it's always been 4 artistic directors. The founding artistic director was Jim Frangione. He brought me in. We brought Matt Penn and Bob Jaffe in. Over the years, people have come and gone, and then it was left to me. And so I asked in Richard Dresser, who's done a lot of plays with us, great playwright. And then I asked James, and we asked Felicia, and so that's now the foursome that's running the place, and it's in the last 2 years, I guess. So we're anxious to get back to work. And only Wendell Pierce would come up with the idea that, hey, why don't we all go move into a house together and, we'll get these guys to help us produce it. And there we were. But forever grateful for that. But yeah, we want to get back to live. I think we're going to try and do some outdoor programming this summer, simple stuff that doesn't mean we have to convene inside, Mahawi, and do maybe some 1-person plays or 2-handers until things kind of even out. Hopefully, 9 months from now? I don't know.
Yeah, well, we hope that you all out there help make this possible at BPL so that we can get back to stage, that all of this amazing work, these artists can be supported. Please go ahead and check that link that we'll continue to drop in the chat and that we're going to put here on the banner to learn more about the company and also find ways to donate. Mr. Pierce, I want to go back to you here for a second. You have done and are currently doing TV and film, and you are a veteran of the stage. But here we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic doing this hybrid work. Can you speak to a little bit about hey, what does it feel like to flex those muscles? Is it I'm using maybe 75% of my theater muscle and 10% of my camera of my on-camera muscle, and whatever percentage I left out on something else? What does that feel like to be in that hybrid space?
Yeah, well, first, Jamil, I want to add to the solicitation for people to support what they're doing at BPL. I consider BPL a contemporary version of what the group theater was when Harold Clurman had all of those actors and writers and designers take the time out to go to the summers and develop the new plays of Clifford Odets and William Enge and Eugene O'Neill. That's the sort of work that we're doing here. That's the sort of work that creates the new American lexicon of plays. It is not in a vacuum. It is not some sort of transient sort of entertainment for summer fare. It is literally commissioning and writing and developing plays that will define the American lexicon of literary, the literary portion of the play itself, and actually the productions and the plays to come. So I put this on par with the group theater of America. I put this on par with the time that the Impressionists of France, the painters, got together in their salons and said, hey, listen, this is a new sort of work that we're doing. And out of that came Manet and Monet and Bonnard. That is the sort of work that we're doing. It is not some transient thing. So to support BPL is very important. It is not something for just next summer or next season. It is something that is going to be an impact in the creation of the new American playwright and the new American lexicon of the theater. It is important that we do this work. And if it's anything we learned from the pandemic, is that this sort of work is vitally important, especially when we see how easily we could lose it. And that brings me to your question, which is, I thought it was imperative that we find a way to keep the expression of what we do going, even though we're separated and isolated and in quarantine. So you make a way, you find a way to do it. And it is involved with hybrid productions, but you have to realize that this production by BPL in production with UMS was seen in countries around the world, in all 50 states, with tens of thousands of viewers, besides just the 1,000 seats that we may get in a weekend in the bricks and mortar theater. And that was vitally important. When it comes to the work, I see it like theater and film. I've always considered it the way. Acting is acting, writing is writing, directing is directing. You have some challenges that are placed in front of you when you go to another medium. But especially as an actor, it's a floodlight, right? I see theater as a floodlight, a mass of light and energy that's there. You don't take any of that light away, you don't take any of that energy away for film, and you make it a laser. So it's directed and pointed and all. But within that thin line, that narrow beam of light, you have all the energy and light that was there when it was a floodlight. And so I think of it that way. So a cross of a stage can be a turn of the head on film. The intimacy of a scene on the stage, stage left with a spotlight that's down, becomes the intimacy of a close-up on film. And it's and in the process, when we were working and the difficulties that we had, even when we did the Zoom calls and the StreamYard calls like this, the one thing you cannot take out is the human element. So even with all of this technology, the humanity of us connecting became the most important thing, right? It does not work without that. And that's why I believe that even as technologically advanced as we become, the human element will always be needed, always be needed. So as we lift the veil of this pandemic, we will not only return to the Berkshires and do outdoor performances and all, but from this point on, every theater and every entity will have a streaming component, that we will go out to the world. So not only will we be in the Berkshires, but we will also be in Berlin. We will also be in Dublin. We'll also be in Kinshasa and Kampala in Uganda, because we'll be online and there will be people, the humanity of the world, that will be able to see these new plays in America done at this very unique training ground of what Berkshire Playwrights Lab is.
Well, you all thought you were getting simply a talkback. You didn't know you were going to get a master class. You didn't know you were going to get an inspirational message. And definitely something to take away, just about the power of performance, the power of story, and what this new hybrid world has birthed, and our ability to share that story, especially of dynamic American writers like you all are doing at BPL. With the rest of the world. I'd love an opportunity to go ahead and answer some questions. So if you all have questions, please go ahead and put them here in the chat. And I'd love to get some things asked to our guest here. From Andrew Mann, it says, great job, Mr. Pierce. What did the character and the play require of you as an actor?
As an actor, you always want to create the world, Mr. Mann, as strongly as possible, and you induce the behavior. As an actor, you start from your own experience, so you can learn, and then combine that with the character's experience created by the author. And for me, in this case, I first started the relationship with my father, 96 years old, also a Black man of the South who experienced it all, fought in World War II in a segregated army, received awards, and were denied them when he came home. His right to vote was in peril when he came home, and was denied to him. And he gave me everything I needed to go out into the world and be the actor that I became. And at the same time, he challenged me about it. Why do you want to be an actor? Boy, I'm sending you to that public private school. You can be anything you want, and you want to be an actor? Oh, I ain't got time for that shit.
I sent you to that good school.
He sent me to that private public school, he called it. I'm sending you to private public school. Private school you ain't got to pay no money for. You get all that good education. You want to be an actor? God damn, what's your problem? Oh, shit. Right? And so that conflict was immediate for me when I was thinking about the conflict of father and son in the play. And then also the love that is there in spite of all of that conflict. When it is seen, when it isn't seen, when you have to re-engage it to hang in before you leave and disengage. So that's what I relied on in creating the character.
That's great. From Michaela, it seems as if they are interested in you, James. What personal experiences did you draw on to create the world of this play?
I mean, too many to like get them all into this answer, but I mean, just simple lines like the, for some reason the Angela Bassett thing is popping into my head. That is a line that I just took directly from my mom. We were just watching TV one day and she said, they have her in everything. Will they give anyone else a job, So I took that from my mom. I mean, what are some other things? I mean, the trash can I took from the electric trash can, the automatic can. That's in my parents' home. There's so many little tidbits, and the characters are composites of people I just know in my life, and the situation also. So, yeah.
They always say, "Write what you know," right, James?
Yep, exactly.
And one of the tricks always about the writing is that when you write about the specific, that's how you communicate the universal. And Joe, I imagine that it was in that universality of the specific that you found your way into as director. Can you speak a little bit about maybe what about your own life did you see reflected back in these characters that allowed you to help guide this ship?
Well, the coincidental thing that James and I have talked about a lot is the first play that I wrote that got produced, Joseph Papp produced it at the Public Theater 30 years ago, was a two-hander, father and son, who were at odds with each other, and they worked it out. Well, they didn't, in that play, it didn't have the ending this one had. So, and I've written not a lot, but a fair amount of father-son stuff. So as soon as I sort of lied before when I said I called Roger when I finished the play. That's not true. I called Roger on page 7. And I said, I'm just reading it. I'm not even done with it, but you got to read this thing. And what drew me in was that father son love and sometimes hate relationship that was so deep and so authentic and so sincere, so passionate, that was searing and upsetting even as you're laughing your ass off the next minute. And so that's really what brought me into it. And you know, I've talked about this a lot. So that for me was it. And you know, the conflict's so clear between those two. It's so clear what each actor's objective is, or each character's objective is, and how high the stakes are. That's all you need. And that's a testament that James is a playwright intuitively knowing. You don't need the bells and whistles of anything else. You just need two characters who have a passionate conflict because they've got different points of view. Put them in a room. And he did. I mean, it's in many ways, it's the perfect play. I mean, I hate to say that, but you're talking about Wendell, you're talking about Monet. I could talk about the perfect play. So why not?
You know, one of the things, and I saw it inspired by one of the questions that we had here in the chat about Mr. Pierce, you wanting to, your desire possibly to play the other role, that there are so many classic plays, right? When we invoked the name of Miss Hansberry earlier, and those stories of an actor who started as a Travis and then becomes a Walter Lee later in their life, or any character who has, or any actor who has been both beneath Ruth and Alina. And, you know, we see it in other great American classics. Mr. Pierce, could you imagine, you know, when the time comes, this play entering into the pantheon of American contemporary classics, seeing yourself play that other role?
Absolutely. You know, it's one of those that you put on the shelf, and it'll define your journey as a man and as an actor. When you get to that point when you play that role, I have it on my shelf next to Lear and all the ones that you're going to get to. I'll put it up there with Lear and Crazy Man on the Upper West Side. No, what is it called again? What is it?
Oh, Between Riverside and Crazy.
Right.
Yeah, Between Riverside.
You weren't too far off.
I wasn't too far off. Crazy Man on the Upper West Side, right? Between Riverside and Crazy, great role, and right, and Some Old Black Man. You know, that will be the canon for when I reach a certain age. So I look forward to that. So yes, I do, Dale. Look forward to doing that. I wanted to comment on Susan's question, which is, when you write something specific with art, the more specific you are, the more universal you become. The more specific you are, the more universal you become. And so if you are truthful and authentic and specific to your world, it doesn't matter that you are not some old black man and you are some young white woman. It speaks to you, right? That is our common humanity. That's the thing that makes something classic. It speaks to our humanity across time and space and race and gender, and it speaks to our humanity. So that is the barometer by which you can see the greatness of this play, that it spoke to you, and understand that it spoke to you and the relationship that you have with your mother, and dealing with that, because because we all understand love. We all understand love. So to lose a spouse, to lose a loved one, to be an aging parent, feeling the love for the caretaker that is your child, not wanting to be a burden on them. That's the wonderful thing about playing the opposite, is to understand that Charlie was in a position of having to deal with the conflict that all aging parents feel of, I don't want to be a burden on you. I brought you into the world. Live your life. I don't want your life to become the burden of providing an existence for me. Oh, there's such wonderful stuff to play. So in no way does a play like this exclude anyone. It actually includes everyone. So this play, I'm glad it spoke to you, Susan. because it was supposed to speak to you.
I'm so excited that you say that. I'm so excited to hear everyone communicating the universal themes in the chat. At the theater that I run in Atlanta, True Colors Theater, we are a Black theater company, and we have to speak often to people who feel like being a Black theater company somehow will exclude others from enjoying the story, and say no, that this is the specific lens. We talked earlier about whether it be a big floodlight or whether it be the tiny laser, the lens that we are perceiving the story, that's the specificity to it. But the themes inside of the work that are explored are the universal. And we're really thankful that BPL is adding to the array of lenses that we get to view the American experience through. So really, really excited for the work here. There's a comment from a Stephen Montaigne, I'm imagining, because there's a little who that there. Stephen, James Anthony Tyler, who were your greatest influences as a playwright while you were studying at NYU? And yay, Wendell, amazing work. And again, as someone who is currently living in Atlanta, I don't have any beef with the Atlanta New Orleans connection, but I just won't allow me to say those last 6 letters twice in one speech.
That's okay, Jamil. You don't have a football team like
this. I had to hear a little bit when we were on Sundays. I had to hear a little bit of that from Mr. Pierce also.
James, who are your influences as a playwright?
I mean, it's all the greats, the August Wilsons, the Alice Childress, the Anne Berries. I mean, Gerges is still with us. I love his work. There's so many. Arthur Miller. I would just be naming off names forever, but lots of influences.
Well, in many ways, where Miller has in Death of the Salesman, right, like that iconic father son and some of those questions, those challenges in there. Of course, the ages are different, and Wilson in that work, some of the greatest American plays are about that conflict. But I also love what you've added with this age component that we see in the likes of Lear, or now, of course, as you start opening that world, I don't want to misstate myself, so I'll keep it where I'm safe. But there was another question I saw pop up that I wanted to go back to. Okay, great. Thank you very much. You all, I want to give this quick that we're coming close to our end, but I do want to just remind everyone that thank you for your time. Thank you for donating to BPL so that we can keep the work going. Joe has shared with you just the history of BPL, how it has survived being passed on by artistic collaborators, and that it is not just about one artist, one producer, but it is about a history of work and their dedication to telling American stories. You've heard from James about how you all are witnessing a piece that started as a 10-minute idea in his brain, that over time and with the help of collaborators, especially BPL, he has been able to grow this kind of work, and how it can inspire someone, the likes of Mr. Wendell Pierce, to want to be a part of the production, and from the moment that they read the play, and then to go through the experience, and then ultimately put it on their shelf next to the Lears, next to all of the great classics of our work. All these things are possible because of the work of BPL and because of the donations of people like you. So thank you for your continued support of the organization, for not just what they have done, but what they continue to do and will do here in the future. Joe, I want to pass it back over to you here and speak about, how can people learn more or get more involved with BPL? I imagine that you are looking to engage donors at different levels and provide different types of access opportunities. What are ways in which people can get involved with BPL?
Well, since there's no tickets to buy to a play, you could donate whatever you might have given in exchange for a ticket, and that'll be very helpful. I think people sometimes underestimate the value of and the importance of even the small gifts. We tend to think of the big donors, and we certainly have had some of those and would like a few more. Even today would be nice. But you don't have to be a big donor. You just have to support at whatever level you can. And I promise you, given our budget, it will make a significant difference. There's that. And the other thing that no one ever actually says in situations like this, but I'm going to say it. We're a small organization. And our board of directors, board of trustees, is very important to the well-being of this institution. We are actively looking for board members. That's people who can want to advocate for the company, raise money, give money, get money. I mean, it doesn't happen without that support, who live in the Berkshire community or even New York City. So if anybody's interested in that, they should get in touch with us and we should have a conversation about what that might entail. So that's what's going to keep us, it's going to give us the ability to continue doing this kind of thing. And I have to say, if we compare it in one broadcast to the group theater and the French Impressionists, that's great, Wendell. I mean, but you know what?
It's truth.
I know. That's why it's like, I was like, wow. Because we tend to forget what we're doing.
What I want people to understand is this is not aspirational.
Yeah, it's great.
It is not some dream. But for the pandemic, this production is on Broadway.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about something that started with the seed of an idea in 10 minutes, was developed at Berkshire Playwrights Lab. It's brought to New York, and but for circumstance, it would have a New York run, great reviews. We have been reviewed in the London papers before we've even had the production. No one brought that up, and I want to bring that up. The Guardian, go online after this. The Guardian and the Telegraph gave great reviews for this production. And it's just a matter of time when the veil is lifted of this pandemic that we get back on stage, so inspire the same response, and this moves to Broadway or London. It's that immediate. We're waiting for everyone to get their shots, right? And so, right? So we can gather again. And so it shows you that support of a small thing like Berkshire, a small organization like Berkshire Playwrights Lab, is small in only size, but not in vision and not in capacity. This theater company will actually have a production on Broadway called Some Old Black Man when the veil is lifted, and will be writing and producing other plays behind it. It is the group theater. It is the National Playwrights Festival and convening that happens in Connecticut, or happened in Connecticut. It is all of those things. It is Moliere. It is Shakespeare handing out sides to the players, right? It is when the Negro Ensemble Company came together under Douglas Turner Ward and created that. It is when a young dancer named Arthur Miller said, after the death and assassination of Martin Luther King, I'll create my own company so people know that Black folks can be dancers. And I can hear Clifford Odets. And one of my favorite plays, and this is what tonight is all about, Awake and Sing. Awake and Sing. That's what the Berkshire Playwrights Lab is all about. That's what this production was about, and that's what your support is.
Yeah. Y'all, please remember that no gift is too small. You are going to play a role in continuing the life of this play. I'm inspired to go and give my money to support this play and to see it have its commercial run and get the type of stage time that the writing deserves, the work of this company deserves, and we all as a public who enjoys hearing stories and enjoying the communal live experience cannot wait for this veil to be lifted. Joe, did you want to take us home before I wrap it all up?
James,
I just want to add something about Berkshire Playwrights Lab and this play. I feel like So Bob Jaffe gave the play to BPL 3 years prior to us actually having the reading. I had forgot that he had even given them the play. And they called me just out of the blue. You know, I was running from the play at that point. Just, you know, I was moving on to other things. They called me up for the summer, you know, to come. And, you know, Roger Robinson was going to read the role of Tony Award winner, a masterful actor, had been in a number of August Wilson productions, was going to read Donald. And Peter J. Fernandez was reading Calvin at the time. And I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. Joe Cacaci was directing. I was very excited, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But what ended up happening was BPL ended up being the place where I learned 2 great lessons: to trust my collaborators and to trust the audience. And so trusting the collaborators was getting into the room and being honest about what was on the page, what might have been missing. You know, at one point, Roger was going, I think he would say something here, you know? I think he would say something here, would he, you know? And I would have to go back to my room and say, oh man, he was totally right, and come with new pages that excited all of us. And then right before the reading that Wednesday, I will never forget, I was telling Joe, oh boy, I don't think this is gonna work. Let's just, you know, I know they're masters and we did all this work for all these days, but I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if anyone cares. And Joe said, trust it. And Roger said, I got this, trust me, I got it. And it was just amazing to see the audience with script, book in hand, the audience's reaction, and they just understood the play. And it was just about making the play as specific as possible is what made it universal. And it was just one of the most amazing theatrical experiences. I had no faith. And then the lights went down and the play came alive. And so, I mean, BPL is just, it holds such a special place. And, you know, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, thank you for that. Joe, did you want to take us home?
I do. I just want to acknowledge a few people here that, you know, as you know, Jamil, as we all know, working in nonprofit theater, aside from the money, this doesn't happen without people's enormous dedication and staying up late and doing stuff and giving stuff and pro bono stuff. Anyway, so first I want to thank the Mahawi Performing Arts Center, which really has been our home for 12, 13 years. We don't have our own theater company. And Karen and Janice and Michael have been so gracious in partnering with us on this, and that needs to be said. Second, I want to thank that there's a missing piece here, as you've all noticed. The great Charlie Robinson is not with us today. He's literally on a flight from New York to Los Angeles as we speak. And we actually trying to figure out, can he do it from the plane? And then, anyway, but Charlie, you know, really rescued us, because after the death of Roger, aside from losing one of our closest, dearest friends, James and I looked at each other, and Wendell looked at each other, and it's like, well, who the hell's going to replace him? And then our friend Ren Brown at the Ebony Rep said, you know, Charlie Robinson. And so James and I flew out, and Wendell was in LA, and you know, it all came together. And so Charlie was a big piece of this, and I just want to thank him publicly. And then I'd just like to mention, you know, as I said it earlier, the people that supported this play going to New York: Stacy and Jeff Weber, Mike Herson and Peg Andrew, John Whalen, Fred and Sally Harris, Michael Walkowitz and Hope Hollander. I mean, nobody invests in theater thinking they're going to make money. They do it because they love the play and they love BPL and they love Wendell Pierce, frankly. And Wendell, once again, I know you're sick of hearing me say it, but this was a great thing you did, and not only a great actor, but a great co-producer. And so, thank you for that.
And drinking buddy. Huh? Great drinking buddy.
Great drinking buddy. And that was my biggest regret, getting COVID, aside from, I was very happy I didn't end up on an iron lung, but I didn't get to live with these guys. That was the whole thing for 4 weeks. Yeah, there he is. Now, let me just say, Wendell, I hope you don't mind. We're here on the East Coast at 6 p.m. Some people on the West Coast, it's 3 p.m. This guy's in Europe shooting Jack Ryan, his series on Amazon. It's midnight, but he joined us for this, and that's just the kind of guy he is. So,
That's because this is important. This is important. And so thank you.
okay.
Thank you all so very much for joining BPL tonight. I hope you enjoyed the play, and I hope you enjoyed the talkback. Again, continue to help us bring more beautiful work to the stage. We thank you for your support. Go ahead, James.
Wait, one more thing, because Jamil is an amazing director, and we worked on a piece called All We Need Is Us for Keen Company that we hope you all will go to Keen Company's. Or you can find it on any podcast platform. Check it out. And you can also check out Hop the A on Audible. That's it. Like podcast.
Hop the A is written by James Anthony Tyler. It's a play that we did at BPL, and it's a totally different play than Some Old Black Man, but equally as mesmerizing and powerful and enjoyable. I have to say that.
And wonderful to hear as an audio play.
Yeah,
it's really wonderful to turn that off. Actually, I loved turning off all the lights and listening to it, because then your mind just creates that world that you create in your audio landscape. And you're a talented man. You're a talented man.
Thank you. Huge compliment coming from the greatest actor of his generation.
Well, and
all right, y'all.
All right, and thanks to Felicia Harden, our co-artistic director and your earlier hostess, and thanks to Richard Dresser, great playwright in his own right, and our co-artistic director and friend, and Jamil. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all so very much. I hope you enjoyed your night, and we will see you when the veil is lifted back in the theater.